So glad to have you in here. I see Muttley, thank you. Kyle, thank you. Man, it's so glad to be back in the building. Now that I got y'all in here and now that we actually have the sound working, would you tag somebody who you feel would benefit from the experience this weekend? Somebody who would get something from these type of conversations. If you're new here and if you didn't know, I guess I'm a little vain. My name is on the screen, isn't it? My name is Darante LaMar, y'all. I'm the founder of DLDD World Group and BridgeCity Global. BridgeCity is our little community experiment where we are doing our best to help people find a better way to connect by building community beyond superstition that is progressive thinking, people-centric, and life-affirming, which is why we are so glad to have you here this weekend. Thank you for being here. Oh, man. So are y'all ready to jump into this, man? Are y'all ready to jump into this conversation? Let's do the dang thing. All right, good morning, family. All right, let me tell you about a conversation that, quite honestly, I will never forget. It was years ago. I was sitting at a kitchen table across from someone I deeply loved, the kind of person whose voice was stitched into my childhood. We weren't shouting, we weren't angry, but we weren't connecting either. And at one point, I paused and I looked at them and I asked, do you actually want to understand me or do you just want me to surrender? Now, quite honestly, they didn't answer the question. And it's not because they didn't care, it's because they honestly didn't know the difference. And in that moment, I realized something that changed how I approach every hard conversation now. See, disagreement doesn't destroy relationships. Often, it's ego that does it. And sometimes the loudest ego in the room is the one wearing my face. And that's why we're here today, because some of us have walked away from conversations with people we love, not because we didn't care, but because we were carrying too much pain to make it productive. Some of us know what it feels like to win the argument, but lose the connection. Some of us know the exhaustion of performing knowledge when what we really needed was a little more kindness. And maybe, just maybe, you're here this weekend not just to understand others better, but to actually make peace with the parts of you that still need to be right in order to feel worthy. Would you pause and sit in that for a moment? Am I talking to anybody out there? And forgive me for the preacher language, it is who I am. But is there anybody out there that says, damn, that resonates with me? Maybe that is what I've been dealing with sometimes. Maybe that's what makes disagreement so difficult for me. Maybe that's why it's so uncomfortable. Maybe that's why the tension literally makes my skin crawl, because an attack on oh goodness gracious, an attack on what I think might be an attack on my sense of worth. So maybe I've connected being right with being worthy. Oh my goodness. Damn, this is still the intro. We're still in the intro, but I feel like there's something here, because I feel like this is something I definitely struggled with prior to deconverting. This is something I definitely think that I've seen other people deal with, is that it ain't even really that I care about being right or wrong. It's the fact that, if I'm not right, am I still worthy? And that's a real struggle for a lot of people. That's why I'm so glad we're having these conversations. Listen, if y'all are enjoying this already, go ahead and drop some fire in the chat. But that's why we're having these type of conversations, because there's often a lot more going on than just what's being said. There's often a lot more going on than just what meets the eye. Sometimes it's not that I want to feel right, I just want to feel worthy. And so one of the things that I had to deconstruct while I was deconverting is that, watch this, it's okay to be wrong. So I am absolutely comfortable with being wrong. As a matter of fact, and I think some of y'all have noticed that as I've gotten hyper-focused on content, I've also gotten hyper-focused on productivity. And so I think one of the things that you will realize, the closer you get to me, the more comfortable you got to get with being wrong. Because watch this, for me, it's an assumption. For me, it's assumption. It's my educated guess. My educated guess is that you're going to be wrong more than you're going to be right, and I'm okay with that. And I need you to be okay with that. Oh my goodness, this is some good teaching, because I need you to understand, damn, I didn't mean to say teaching. This is good conversation, y'all, because I don't need you to be in the place where someone says, oh, well, you got it wrong, so now you must not be worthy. No, I need you to be comfortable. No, I'm gonna get it wrong 9 times out of 10. And the truth of the matter, this is just something I've learned from organizational development. I actually need you to be wrong more than you're right, because that's how we get to the good ideas. Many times, like even if someone come up to me with an idea, the first idea is almost always a no in my head, because I need to hear 10 other ideas to compare that bad boy to. Many times we have to move away, separate, disassociate even from this idea that my rightness or my wrongness has anything to do with my value or my sense of self as a human being. I could be wrong all damn day long, but I'm still worthy. Hell, damn, that was good. All right, y'all. All right. So this is still the intro. I'm not even supposed to be going this hard yet. So today, this is the intro. I see y'all in the chat. I love y'all, man. So today, as we are closing out our Disagreement Therapy series, we're talking about something deeper than debate strategy. We're talking about how to rise through emotional maturity and intellectual humility, especially with the conversations with the people that you care about. These conversations aren't the conversations we're having about the flat earth. These aren't the conversations that we're having about whether there was a woman who gave birth and as a virgin, and the kid died and was crucified and was resurrected. No. Nobody's talking about facts. What we're talking about are the conversations you're having with the people you love. Today, we're talking about the kind of maturity that can pause you, that can make you pause mid-sentence to ask, what do I really want out of this conversation? The kind of humility that can say, I could be wrong, and I'm okay with that. And maybe most important, the kind of courage it takes to stop trying to win every conversation and start trying to build something with the people we say we care about. So if you've ever walked away from a disagreement wondering if there was a better way, this conversation today is for you. If you've ever been told that humility means weakness or silence, baby, this conversation is for you. And if you're ready to stop throwing words like weapons and start using them like bridges, this session is yours. And before we even dive into the conversation, I want to invite you to name the moment you're walking into this with. Name the moment, because I know some of us are arriving with bruises. Some of us are carrying conversations that didn't end well. Some of us have been quiet too long, and others have probably said a little too much. So here's the question I want you to drop in the chat right now or in the comments if you're watching this later. What's one conversation that left a mark? Maybe it taught you something. Maybe it broke something. Maybe it opened your eyes. Whatever it was, you're here because it mattered. This conversation got your attention because of some conversations in your life that mattered. So name that moment and let it guide your posture today. If you've ever walked away from a conversation and said, that didn't go how I wanted it to go, if there's something you wish you could say but haven't found the words for yet, or if you're ready to build better conversations starting today, then this isn't just a talk. This is therapy. This is practice. This is real. Let's keep the chat active. Let's be human. And most importantly, let's be humble. And if you didn't know already, that's actually the name of today's conversation. Be humble. Sit down. Okay, sorry, I had to say it. Be humble. Now, I don't know what type of emoticons or emojis they have for humility and being humble, but I cannot wait to see what creativity you come up with. So would you let somebody know, encourage somebody to today with the title of today's conversation, and see if you can do it as an emoji. Tell somebody, let somebody know that to be humble, that it's okay to be humble, to be humble. Sit down. I can't help it. Every time I say be humble, it's gonna happen. Be humble. Sit down. All right. You know, I should have built that into the flow today, but anyway, here we go. All right. So we're closing out the Disagreement Therapy series with two of the most overlooked but powerful principles in every conversation. Are y'all ready for this? Emotional maturity and intellectual humility. Why? Because how you show up matters more than how loud you get. And if you really care about the person, the issue or the outcome, then how you hold that space becomes a direct reflection of your growth. So let's break this down a little bit. Let's define emotional maturity, okay? Let's get a working definition that we can all kind of work with. Emotional maturity is the ability to recognize, regulate, and respond to your emotions in ways that are grounded, intentional, and constructive. And I just hearing myself say the words, I thought about it. And look, I wrote the notes, but just hearing myself say the words, I had a thought that I did not have when I was pulling this together. So I'm going to read this definition again to see if you can see it. Emotional maturity is the ability to recognize, regulate, and respond to your emotions. We can just put a little period right there, because what I just realized, and we're going to come back, I'm going to get back to the notes, I promise you, I'm going to get back on script, but what I just realized is that many times in conversation, we spend the majority of the time responding to the other person's emotions while never responding to our own emotions. Have you ever thought about that, or is that just me? Maybe that's just me. Maybe in your conversations, you are self-regulated as regulated could be, and you are holding that thing down. And if you are, hats off to you. Maybe next year you could be teaching this series with me because we need it. But I just realized that, no, that's a real thing. We spend more time responding to the emotions of the other person than we actually spend regulating or responding to our own emotions. So watch this. Watch this. When I know that you're upset, I get triggered by that. You upset. The audacity of you to be upset with me. How are you upset with me? I'm responding. You disappointed in me. You don't like something I did. You don't like something I said. You have the nerve to suggest that something I did could hurt you. We are responding to those other people's emotions. But I wonder how many times in these conversations do we actually say, oh, damn, if I know that their emotions are causing me to be triggered like that, I wonder what the hell my emotions are doing to me. If I'm that sensitive to their emotions, damn. If I'm that sensitive to their emotions where I'm immediately put into tug of war and we're going to fight this thing out, I wonder what impact my emotions are having on me. And because I'm not paying attention to it, because I'm not regulating those, I'm missing out on a major battle that is happening with me because I'm not responding to how I feel. Oh, damn, we just slipped up in some good stuff. And so, this ain't in my notes, but I think, and this is new for me, but I think if it's perfectly okay to be in the middle of a conversation, and as soon as you realize that emotion pop up, surprise the hell out of the other person by saying, wait a minute, something just woke up in me. I got an emotion in me that I'm not sure what that is. So before I get to you, can I respond to my emotion real quick? What the hell was that? What is that? Why did I get that upset? What is this connected to? What is that about? You see what I'm saying? Thank you, Muttley. Go on the task. No, what is that about? It's okay to stop that and say, you know what? Because I just had an emotional reaction. I just had an emotional trigger. And before I continue in that emotion unchecked, let me check and see what that is, because this might even be bigger than you. Something that might just happen may have triggered something that I'm upset with somebody else, with Big Mama, Grandmama, Uncle Joe, whoever the fuck, that I'm upset with somebody else. And when you said this, it reminded me of all of those years that I went through this, and I said, hell no, not again. And so in all actuality, I'm not even responding to you. Oh my goodness. It's these emotions that I have that I'm not responding to, that I'm not regulating. Is this good, y'all? Damn, is this good, y'all? Oh, snap. So again, and I did all that rundown off of a definition, man. Off of a definition, that's how we got there. Emotional maturity is the ability to recognize, regulate, and respond to your emotions in ways that are grounded, which means this is rooted in something. I have this grounded in reason. It's not just I feel it and that's all that matters. No, I need to ground this thing. I feel this because. Ask yourself 5 whys about this. Why do I feel this? Well, I feel this because this person just said this. Well, why does this person saying that lead to me feeling that way? Because when they said that, it made me feel that they don't appreciate me. Well, why do you feel that they don't appreciate you? Because if they appreciated me, they wouldn't. Do you see what you walk that thing down? You're grounding it in reality. You're grounding it in reason. Yes, you are. Yes, this is so good. And then you are intentional. It's okay to be intentional. Sometimes people don't like having conversations with me, and I get it, because I'm one of the hardest people to have a disagreement with. I'm one of the hardest people to have a disagreement with because I'm going to be intentional as hell in the conversation. I'm going to be intentional. Nope, I think we've moved away from the point, and you're going to still want to be mad. You're going to still want to be mad. And I'm going to be like, no, I think we've moved from the point. Like, we're not even talking about the issue anymore. We have to be intentional and constructive. So am I just doing this just so I can win, or do I have building on my mind? Can I suggest to you that the reason we have so much brokenness is because we have more people who are concerned with deconstructing than we have people who are concerned with constructing. And this ain't just about religious stuff. This ain't just about your beliefs. One of the reasons I stopped being a believer is because there was this obsession, one of many reasons, but one of reasons is because there was this obsession. There's always this, Satan, we're gonna tear your kingdom down. Oh, Lord. There's always this obsession with tearing things down. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to just tear things down. I want to build some things up. And it's not just about faith. It's not just about religion. But I wonder how many of us take that posture into our relationships with people that we love. I tell you, sometimes even it bothers me sometimes. I mean, talk about it how you want to talk about it. No judgment. I'm just trying to highlight something here. But it bothers me sometimes when I hear the way we talk about sex sometimes. I beat the pussy up. I told that shit. It's like, why is it so violent? Why can't it be like, I bless the pussy? Why can't we say that? Isn't that good? Isn't that a nice thing to do? Somebody tell me, ladies, is that not wrong? Or do you want it to be beat? Does it have to be beat, or can it be blessed sometimes? Hallelujah. All right. So that, the point is, we've become so focused on warfare mentality. We've been so focused, so entrenched in warfare methodologies that even when we're dealing with people we love, the desire is to tear down and not to build up. Sheesh, this is good stuff. Oh my goodness. All right, 44 of y'all out there still hanging with me, so I didn't make you mad. All right, we're good. So emotional maturity means that you don't let your temporary feelings drive permanent decisions, okay? You can acknowledge your anger without becoming harmful. And you know when to speak, you know when to listen, and you know when to walk away. Emotional maturity doesn't mean avoiding emotion. It means directing it with purpose, okay? So before we move on from this, I want to share 5 principles, and then we're going to talk about intellectual humility. But dealing with this emotional maturity, I want to share 5 principles. And honestly, anytime I share principles is probably not even a good word to use, but anytime I share principles, these are talking points, okay? All principles are a frame of reference to create the conversation when it comes to these conversations. So please don't take any of this as these are fundamental principles of how life works. Don't do that shit, okay? That's not how this works. And actually, I can get really metaphysical there, but I'm not gonna do that. The point is, please don't be like, Darante said there are 5 principles and only 5, don't you do that shit. That's not what I said. What I said is we're gonna share 5 principles of emotional maturity, and the purpose of these principles are to give us a frame of reference. There are some talking points, man. There are some talking points here. So, first principle, y'all ready for this? Self-awareness. All right. This is probably the lack of self-awareness is such a killer. And the truth of the matter is, it's hard to be mad at people who are not very self-aware. People who and one of the ways, okay, rabbit trailing here a little bit. One of the ways, and this is how you can self-diagnose. I think this is probably one of the best ways to self-diagnose about how comfortable you are with self-awareness, right? Because what I've discovered is that most people who are not very self-aware, it's not that they can't see. Many times they don't want to see because self-awareness is very uncomfortable. So a quick test that you can kind of test yourself if you're interested to see, like, no, I'm really good. I'm good at self-awareness. Is try mindfulness meditation. Just try it one time. All it takes is one time to determine, for me, and this just me from observation. I think this is just Darante. I think you will know from that one time if you have a difficult problem sitting still for 5 minutes with yourself, with your thoughts. You are likely uncomfortable with self-awareness and are likely living your life not very aware, informed, and intentional about how you present yourself and how you interact with others. And you are, whether you are intending to or not, you're probably hurting a lot of people. Because a lot of times, I hope this helps somebody right here. A lot of times we make the mistake that because we're not physically doing people wrong, that we're not harming them. But I want to flip this for you a little bit. And this is not a way to give you guilt. Please don't understand that. I'm not trying to add guilt here. I'm trying to give you a way to think about this. If you're in a relationship with any people that you do not care about, and you're not bringing your full self to that relationship, you're robbing that relationship. I just want to give you that perspective. I want to give you something to think about like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's true, ADHD. That is so true. So this self-awareness is, I know what I'm feeling and I know why. I know what I'm feeling and I know why. That's that self-awareness. Not just that I know what I'm feeling, not just I know I'm angry, but I know why I'm angry. And that here's some maturity stuff. Because remember, these conversations, these are the personal growth stuff. For those of you who just want to hear me beat up on Christians, we'll be doing that. No, I don't really beat up on Christians. But for those of you who want to hear me exposing the harms of theology, we do that Monday through Friday. But this is some growing up stuff. I know I'm angry. Why am I angry? And the answer can't be because they made me angry. We're going to have to go deeper than that when dealing with self-awareness. So it's recognizing your own emotional state before reacting, understanding the source of your triggers. We've gotten really good at knowing that we have these triggers. And I have some. Like, man, the past decade of my life, I've been working with my triggers. You know what I'm saying? I have triggers because of growing up in what I call an orphaned existence. I was not technically an orphan, but I grew up without my parents. I knew who my parents were. I even lived with one of them for some time and then lived with the other one for some other time. But by far and large, I lived with so many different people throughout my life that I developed so many trauma triggers, many off of feeling like an orphan, feeling dispensable, feeling disposable, feeling like I did not belong. You have to wonder what it does to the child to grow up and never have a bedroom of your own. To never have a room you can put walls on. And again, these are what they call first world problems. I know, so don't cry for me. Sad stuff for sure, but I promise you there's other folks who done had it way worse than me. I've met some of those folks, and this is not a flex or anything like that. The point is, very few of us, my wife has said it several times, very few of us escape childhood without scars. And so it's one thing to know that we have these triggers, but man, I've been spending a whole decade dealing with my why. Why is this trigger? And so I've had to unpack a lot of work. And while I'm here, can I say one of the reasons we don't like to do that type of awareness deep dive is because we're afraid of how it's going to challenge and likely change relationships with some of the people we care about. Because truth be told, when you start dealing with triggers and trauma like that, as I just kind of walk through my life, and I know everybody's don't look like that, but as I just gave you a piece of my life, you start realizing, holy snap, in order for me to actually unpack these whys, I'm either going to have some hard conversations, or I'm going to have some tough clarity about certain people in my life, which was one of the things that I've had to do. I've literally called my father and said, hey man, we're good. You don't even got to try anymore. Don't, you know what? I realize it's unhealthy for me to be trying to make you take on a role that you never signed up to take on. You just fucked somebody one night after meeting them, you know? Oh man. So nothing about you doing that made you qualified to be a father, especially not to somebody like me. So it's okay, brother. I've evolved. The seat's taken. That's how evolution works. That's how evolution works sometimes. Sometimes you begin to evolve into what you need, not what you don't have. Damn, that's good. All right, if I was preaching, if this was church, if we was church, I'd go ham right there. Okay, so self-regulation, man, is what we're talking about. I don't let every emotion drive my behavior. You know, I often tell people, and you know, sometimes people like this one, sometimes they don't. It is what it is. It's something I live by right now. It's just a little personal principle, is that emotions are for the experience, data is for the decisions, you know? And I use that to remind myself that to not let my emotions ever get in the driver's seat. I love my emotions. I value my emotions. Because I'm a science fiction writer, my emotions bring so much energy and passion to my work. Because I'm a content creator, because I'm a community developer, my emotions are what empower my charisma. You know, they're coming because I am a person with big emotions. But them motherfuckers not made to lead though. They not made to drive. They can help me understand some things. They can help me understand what I'm experiencing. And that's why I got to the place that my emotions are not really communicating to me something about other people. And that's where I used to live for the first part of my life, is that if I'm mad, the problem is you, you know, and surely you may have done something, absolutely. But no, if I'm mad, my madness isn't telling me something about you. If I'm angry, my anger isn't communicating to me something about you. My anger is communicating to me something about me. Why is it that stuff like this makes me mad? That's where I like to go to. And for me, it's a utility thing. Y'all know me, I'm kind of an extreme pragmatist. I need to know which version of the conversation I can get something more out of. And honestly, knowing what my emotions are telling me about me is a lot more useful than assuming what my emotions could be telling me about somebody else. But when I know, damn, Darante, things like this really upset you, because when I can walk down that trail, that it gives me a better sense of clarity and authenticity about my values. Oh, this is good. I hope this is good, man. So the point is not letting, at least for me, is not letting the emotions drive my behavior. Feeling the emotions. I don't shit. Like I told you, I love my emotions. I'm not going to let anybody shame me for having an emotional moment, whether that emotional moment is sorrow, whether that emotional moment is hurt, whether that emotional moment is anger. I'm not going to let anybody ever shame me for having the emotions, as long as I was able to keep those emotions in check from actual causing harm to anybody else. No, I'm going to live through my emotions. I'm going to breathe through them. I'm going to value them, and I'm going to process them motherfuckers. And then use my intuition, or not my intuition, but use my intelligence, use my reasoning, use my critical thinking to determine what to do from there. And it's so many times, and this is a very interesting phenomenon, and I'll probably write about this one. There's this thing where we feel that it is warranted that we turn off that we do less critical thinking with the people that we care about. And that's just mind-blowing to me. We want the people that we care about to pretend with us. We want the people that we care about to not have us to be clear. You know, and that should tell us, I'm like, damn, maybe the way that I'm approaching care might be a little afflicted. You know, you got thinking about those things. All right, I'm not going to take that rabbit trail. We're going to keep going. All right. responding instead of reacting, knowing when to pause, breathe, and choose your next move. All right. And then another one, a good one, is empathy without absorption. So I can understand your pain without drowning in it. And that sometimes it feels that people are so afraid to be empathetic. And obviously we can look at our political state and see that it's a real issue. But I like to remind people that anything you're seeing happen, on a political level, is oftentimes a reflection of things that are happening on an individual level, macro, micro. And so, at least like a microcosm. And so what you could see is that a lot of times people are afraid to empathize with people that they disagree with. And in this case, we're talking about people you love, because it's like somehow if I empathize, I'm now harmed. That if I understand your pain, I've hurt myself somehow. Like I'm robbing myself of something by understanding your pain. Or that if I show any empathy to your side, that means I have to agree with you. And I'm like, we can be deeper thinkers than that. I can 100% empathize with your pain and still disagree. That's okay. As a human being, that's something I'm capable of. I don't know if you came with that feature or not, but I definitely came with that feature. I have that feature. You can check your manual and see if they can upgrade your ass, but that's a feature that you can have, that I can be empathetic. I could understand how you think something is harming you, even if I don't think that harm exists, because I know that I don't get to be the thermometer of other people's harm. Like, that's a slippery slope. No matter how convinced I am that, that didn't hurt you. No matter how convinced I am, I don't have a way to measure what actually hurts somebody. And so for me to pretend that science has gotten us there, and to rob another person of their moment, to rob another person of an opportunity to feel heard, that's just like, oh no, especially because, again, we're centering this series on people that you care about, So you learn how to, I can empathize with your pain. Man, so you thought me not calling you for those few weeks was me telling you I didn't love you. No, I'm sorry, I got busy, And so now, while I may feel like, oh, you need to grow the fuck up, I may feel that. But just because I feel that doesn't mean I can't say, ooh, I can see how that hurt you. I can see why that matters. And if this is somebody that I'm in relationship with who values me, then why can't I value them that way? And see, I can value them, understand their pain, and then let them know, hey, I'm not going to call you every week. So whatever you need to do to be okay with that. Because anything other than you being okay with that is now you not respecting me the way that I'm respecting you in this moment right here. You see, it takes work, and a lot of times what we're looking for is some just 5-step program. That's why I stressed the hell out of it when we started dropping the principles. But some 5-step program. If I just do this in every conversation, then the conversation is going to go right. And what I'm trying to say is like, no, it doesn't work like that. Anytime you're looking for a 5-step way to deal with people, here's a news alert. Okay? When you're looking for a 5-step program to deal with people, a 5-step process to deal with people, you are absolutely dehumanizing other people. And as a humanist, I'm just like, don't do that. Don't do that shit. No, but it's even worse than that. Like, if you are dehumanizing other people, let me tell you what you're robbing yourself of. If you remember that you're the blind man touching the elephant, and your best way of actually understanding what you're dealing with is communicating with the other blind folk touching the elephant who are touching different sides of it, then what you begin to realize, dang, this is getting good. What you begin to realize then is what you're also robbing yourself of is opportunities to learn from other people. You're not valuing those other people because you're assuming that you already know what they need based off your 5-step process. So according to Dr. Littman's book, I just do this, and I just do this, and I just do this. What if Dr. Littman ain't never met your wife? What if Dr. Littman has never had a conversation with your dad? What if Dr. Lippman has never met your brother and don't know that that mofo is crazier than bats and shits and giggles just for the hell of it? Well, they don't know that. They don't know that, right? Right? So, and this is something we do because many times we get so excited about some new thing we hear and we go try to use it on people. And I say, here's a thought. And I know this sounds like hard work. I know this sounds like hard work, but here's a thought. Instead of trying to shortcut the process, why not treat every person like an individual and say, hey, how do you feel about this? Why not realize, and I get it, the thing that our species is wrestling with, and let's have some nuance here, right? The thing that our species is wrestling with is how to better manage the time that we've given ourselves. All right? That's the gift that our sociological evolution has given us. We got more time to do things that we would have never even imagined of doing at an earlier moment in our evolutionary process because we had to survive. And we've gotten better at surviving. Nowhere near perfect. I don't know what the fuck perfect is, so I don't know what you want from me, but we've gotten better at surviving. And the better we've gotten at surviving, the more opportunities it opened for us to spread out, to enlarge our tent. And so again, we've talked about this before. At one point in human history, your identity options were limited. I'm being extremist here, but I'm not too far off. Your identity options was hunter, gatherer. All right? There was no trash collector. That was not an identity option. There was not an identity option. There was no basketball player, not an identity option. These new identity options, these new identity possibilities are the gift of time. That the way that we have begun to work together, this is why you got to learn how to value people, because so much comes out of the work that we've done together. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can create content because people work together. If people didn't work together, I'd still have to be protecting myself somewhere out in the savannah, in the Serengeti, I don't know, in the steeps somewhere, because people weren't working together. But because people are working together, I have more identity options. I hope that makes sense. And so because of that, I think one of the struggles of our species is that we got so much time and that we've never had the opportunity of actually using this time to explore the human experience. We've just had to survive for so long. And so many times we're still almost instinctually in relationships with people like that. We're still in survival mode. Like, I really don't want to know you. I want to shortcut these processes because we just got to go through this, because it's like we haven't adjusted to realizing, oh, I actually have time to get to know you. I actually have time to ask you what you like. I don't have to just be like, oh no, I grew up thinking that all women like this, and so this is just what I'm gonna give every woman that's in my life. I can start treating people in my life like individuals and just ask them, hey, what you like? I can be in a conversation when come on, man, I hope this is helping somebody. So, and all of this is to say, you got to be careful with these 1, 2, 3-step processes and you just do this. No, treat these people like individuals, man. Don't rob anybody else's of their humanity. It just, it doesn't work like that. And even when what we're talking about, it does represent a statistical norm, the problem then is that becomes a stereotype and it becomes an expectation, and then it becomes something that we classify as humanly normal, which means everybody who doesn't identify with that then becomes dehumanized, becomes otherized. This is why I've warned people when they make statements like, we just need to hug. We need a hug because we human. They say that's a human need. And it's like, no, I get it. I get why you're saying it. And yes, we should hug our babies, but be very careful about saying that, because there's a lot of adults who don't like to be hugged. And so every time you say, oh, everybody love to be hugged, that's a human need, you're implying that those people who don't like that, regardless of how small of the population they may represent, that statement kind of implies that they might not be human. Okay, all right. So what we're talking about empathy. You see how much empathy brings out of me? I'm an empathetic motherfucker. I am. You can't always tell. Because I am a person, I prioritize good faith. Like, it has to be honest. And like, I value my love. I guess that's the only type of abstinence I'm with. Like, if you want my purity, if you want pure Darante, like, you got to marry me, goddammit. Like, we got to be in covenant, hallelujah, or whatever. Like, so everybody don't get all of me. Like, why? Why would I invest that kind of energy? No, we got to be in a relationship. Okay, so this is talking about caring for others without losing yourself. Boundaries and compassion go hand in hand. It's okay to have boundary intelligence. That's a part of self-awareness. Realizing that not every invitation to fight is worth attending. I don't have to. I don't have to fight just because you want to fight. I don't have to argue just because you want to argue. And this is, again, everybody go back and check out the good faith, because that broke this stuff down. Like, good faith is a requirement for me. And if I know it's not going to be a good faith conversation, I don't care how loud you make the invite, I'm not coming. All right. So knowing when to walk away and when to lean in based on values, not on ego. You can also develop resilience over retaliation. My growth matters more to me than my pride. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, I think, for lack of better words, that's a powerful statement, man. My growth matters more to me than my pride in this situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I'd rather grow from this than just be able to say I embarrassed you. And honestly, this is why there are certain debates that I don't take. Because sure, you may have a lot to learn from me on this conversation, but I have nothing to learn from you. And I value my growth more than I value my pride. So I don't want to be sitting up here just to say, ooh, look how Darante outsmarted the person with the imaginary friend. That's not exactly a flex. So no, my growth matters more than my pride. In the words of one of my deceased late mentors, one of the elders, one of the folks from the Black community, some of y'all gonna like him, some of y'all ain't, but he said, I only debate with my equals, all others I educate. Y'all better holler at your boy. So but the point is, my growth matters more than my pride, So you don't escalate to prove strength. You choose peace to preserve purpose, Dang, we just keep slipping into some good stuff, man. All right, so intellectual humility. And again, we're talking about when you're having conversations with people that you absolutely love. These are not necessarily fact-based conversations. These are conversations that are oftentimes over very subjective things, such as memories and feelings. I'm angry because of something I remember you did, or it's an argument about a way that I feel about something that's going on. And so we just got finished talking about emotional maturity. Now we're flowing over into intellectual humility. All right? So intellectual humility is the willingness to admit that you might be wrong. That's the hard part, right? That's the hard part. It's the willingness, the openness to admit that you might be wrong, and the openness to grow when you are wrong. Now, because I've gotten comfortable with being wrong, I've gotten comfortable with knowing that I'm likely wrong many times, that wrong is probably my default position. And I'm not saying that you'd be like, oh, I'm just always wrong. This ain't a low brag. This is not like a false humble type of thing. I'm just saying that's the only reason I can be as right as many times as I am, because I've gotten comfortable with being wrong. It's the only thing that keeps me double checking. It's, like right now I have a chalkboard that my wife put up on my wall over here, and I have numbers that I update on it because I'm a data guy. I do that. So I have numbers that just real quick for me. Anything you're not monitoring, you're likely not managing. So, just that. So I got to put my numbers up there, and then I go between my desk and my chalkboard putting up numbers. And I'm so confident. I am so confident that I could be wrong, that even after I've looked at the number and repeated it, I'm gonna come back after I've written it down just to look at it again to make sure that I have it right, that I have it right up there. You see that? Because I'm comfortable with the possibility that I could have made a mistake, that I could have misremembered something, that I could have conflated a one and a two. There's so many different things that could have happened. And what that does is that puts me in a great place to where if somebody comes into my office and says, "Ooh, that number is wrong," don't you be talking about my numbers? My numbers can't be wrong. Nah, why you think my number's wrong? No, it's not even a concern. The numbers are either going to be wrong or right, and that's really the only thing that matters. I'm not a watch this. Like I'm not a part of the value. I'm not a part of the value equation there. The numbers are. Oh man. So if I got the numbers wrong, we're just going to correct them. And so I actually try to live my life like that now. Like I tell the kids, like, hey, the abandonment of correction or the rejection of correction is the abandonment of improvement, you know? And so I definitely live like an improvement centric life. I'm trying to get better. I want to see how much better I can get. And it's not better as compared to anybody else. I am living this one human experience, excuse me. And after deconversion, I realized that there was more capacity to my existence than I ever could have imagined. And I had been sleeping on myself for so long. So the decision I made was not just that I'm letting go. I told y'all, man, I'm also getting up. I realized that I was in the slow lane for so damn long for no damn reason that now I said, baby, I am in the fast lane. Look, all gas, no brakes, and it ain't about anybody else. This is about me figuring out what there is to me. I am trying to figure out what's in here. How much can I do? How much of me is here? What is me? That's why I'm out here doing this. I'm selfish as a motherfucker. This is all about me. Y'all didn't know that? That's why my name up there like that. No, this is me living my existence. And one of the things, this is why I'm committed to empowering people and individuals, people and communities, because one of the things that I would absolutely love to see are people who just get excited about their life. Like, I don't need a God to be excited about a life to live. The fact that I am in this life, oh my goodness, it has me excited. And after I've looked over the memories, the records, or the histories of all of the things that humans have done, have been able to do, I'm like, why am I sleeping on myself? What else am I capable of doing? So I've become improvement centric, man. I'm always trying to get better. And that makes, I'll be honest, that makes me a hard person to be around sometimes. Now that's something I had to, when did I come to terms with that? 2022, 2023? I started realizing it. Yep. Cause like I was running a mentor group and I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm shutting it down. Because my hyperproductivity is going to make me aggravate the hell out of other folk. And so now I'm at that place where I realize this is my freedom. I'm free to be me. And because I've given that freedom to me, I respect that freedom in other people's lives. Everybody ain't gonna go this hard. Everybody's not gonna want to do, and I don't even want to call it go this hard, because then that makes it sound like it's automatically better than somebody else's path, than somebody else's route. And that's just not the case. It's just better for me. I don't know what could possibly be better for you. I don't know enough about you. This is one of the reasons why I don't really lean into the motivational market or the guru market. I'm good at it. I don't lean into it because I kind of want us to shift away from this idea that there is some stranger who can tell me everything I need to know about my life. Like, no, there's nothing that I'm saying today that I'm sharing with you that we talk about in these conversations that's going to be a plug and play fit for your life. That's not how it works. But how it does work is these conversations that we're having, they're going to make some wheels get spinning in your head. And then that's going to be working with the variables and the information that you have access to. Again, just like when I shared the word principle, it's not really a principle. What these conversations are, y'all ready? It's a frame of reference. It's a point of reference. It's a jumping point for the conversation, a jumping point for you to have something to think about so that then you can actually deal with the individual variables of your life to help you come up with something that works for you. And the thing that I want to help you do, I model my confidence in myself because I want you to be able to do the same thing. To be like, yeah, I don't ever, this was something I had to do. I don't know if this one is for you, but it's something I had to do. I said to myself that I don't ever want to be in a position in my life again where I sincerely believe that somebody else knows what's best for my life, that somebody else knows better for my life than I do. I don't ever want to be in that place again. I lived there. I lived there for probably nearly 2 decades, believing that some man of God, some minister, some spiritual father, some heavenly father, some savior was going to know what I needed to be doing. No, I'm trying to set people free from that shit. That no, it's my, watch this, it's my responsibility and it's my privilege. Y'all don't want to talk to me this weekend. It is my responsibility and it is my privilege to know what is best for me. It is my responsibility and it is my privilege to know what floats my boat. Y'all don't want to talk to your boy this weekend. It is my responsibility and it is my privilege to know what I want my experience to be like and how I want to live it, you know? And much of that has come from that openness and that willingness to grow and that willingness to be wrong. This is how you get here. You know, one thing that I believed for the majority of my life was that I was going to be overweight my whole life. I believed it because I had already been overweight for 28 years. I'd already been overweight for 28 years. For 28 years. I had no reason to believe, according to that time, that I would ever lose weight. I had to become open. I had to become willing to grow and open to the possibility that, Darante, what if you're wrong about this? Oh, my goodness. Okay. All right, let's roll. Let's roll. So, oh, man, I don't know. All right. So, anyway, openness to grow, right? So, I got to fix this, y'all. Give me just a moment. I don't know what happened. Oh, I'm going to have to switch this whole thing over. This commercial break has been brought to you by technology because it does that sometimes. I'm going to see if I can get it back running. I guess my script said I had jumped off script for so long that it was tired of me. And it was like, you know, you don't need me no more. You're not using me. Oh, I got to go back to set this up. Yep. And this is part of one of the many reasons why, as we are growing, we need help. Yay. All right, I got that back in there. All right, we're back at it, y'all. I apologize for that little break. It is just me in here today. Baby girl is not feeling well, so I don't have any help. And even if that happened while she was here, she wouldn't have been able to help too much with that. All right, so just to get everybody caught up, we're talking about emotional maturity and intellectual humility. And we've got through so much today. We've highlighted so much. I've taken you down a few rabbit trails. You could tell that this bothered me a little bit because I started sweating. See, this is my self-awareness. My self-awareness is I know when I get stressed, I start sweating. That's also called high blood pressure. So if y'all like me, check on that. But we've talked about how many times you can be in a conversation and you really can be carrying too much pain. And we're talking about getting to that place where you have this type of emotional regulation, this type of self-awareness to learn how to take these conversations that were once working against you and start learning how to use these things to work for you, how to build your relationships, how to preserve your relationships with the people that you care about, with the people you love. Today, we're not focused on just the conversations you're having with some random internet troll. We're not focusing on conversations that you're having with people that you're trying to educate on the flat earth or anything like that. What we're talking about today are the conversations you're having with the people that you care about, the people that you love. And those conversations are often not about facts. Many times, those conversations are about feelings. Those conversations are about emotions. Those conversations are many times even about memories. and the way we feel about those memories. Damn, I feel like I was reading the script right there. I'm still trying to find my place, but that was perfect, and it was a perfect way to get us caught up. So we've talked about intellectual, or we've talked about emotional maturity. Now we're talking about intellectual honesty, and which is talking about the willingness to admit that you might be wrong and the openness to grow when you are. And this type of humility shows up when you ask more questions than you assume answers. When we were having the conversation about good faith, that's one of the things that I highlighted, is that a really good sign of good faith, is that the other person is willing to ask some questions. I want to see how many questions are being asked in the conversation. Stay curious instead of defensive when challenged, and prioritize learning over proving your point. All right. So, and mind you, this is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking more clearly about what you don't know, which brings us right back to our next place where I want to share some 5 principles of intellectual humility. And remember, as we're talking about this, and I got to get my preacher rag out here. As we're talking about this, these 5 steps are, these 5 principles, if you will, they're just points of references. These are things that are not etched in stone, but these are things that give us something to think about, something to talk about, and a way to approach this conversation. So the first principle I want to share is curiosity over certainty. I'm here to learn, not to win. Learning how to hold space for ideas you haven't considered, right? And so this is staying open even when you're confident. Another part of intellectual humility is acknowledgement of your limits. I don't know everything, and I don't need to. And this will also keep you in good faith in conversations. Sometimes, and I know it's tempting, but sometimes people who are not in bad faith, they're trying to get you in a conversation. And the one thing that I often ask myself is, am I even the one qualified to be having this conversation? If this person was truly trying to get educated on this, truly trying to get informed on this, am I literally the easiest place that they can get this information? Am I the most trustworthy source of them getting this? Didn't I tell y'all the name of this conversation was Be Humble? See, that's some intellectual humility. Even though I likely know that I could demolish this person in the conversation, but I can only do that so well, not because I'm an expert in other stuff. It's just because I'm an expert in knowing when someone is bullshitting. And so I know how to steel man their arguments, anyway. So, but by far and large, in no way does that make me qualified on the subject. And so sometimes, like I said, I forgot the guy's name, Kent Hovind wanted to debate with me on evolution. And I'm like, why would you debate a random content creator? And I think at that time I had like maybe 1,000 subscribers. And my background, my academic background is not biology, it's sociology. Oh, and I don't even think they knew that, because they didn't even ask me about my credentials at all. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. The fact that you're not trying to have this conversation with evolutionary biologists lets me know you're not approaching this in good faith, and I have the intellectual humility to recognize that. You know what I'm saying? I do. And I'm not, and I'm just not, I'm not, and please, for anybody who does accept those debates, especially those of you who are qualified, I'm not mad at that at all. And even those of you who are not qualified to accept those debates, you do you. I'm just talking about me. Lieutenant Dan. All right. So I don't know everything, and I don't need to know everything. Like, that's one of the scriptures that I well, not one of them, I let all of them go. But one of the scriptures that I used to hold dear that I let go was that I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. This used to be one of my favorite scriptures. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And you know what I realized one day? I don't even want to do all things. That's not even something that I'm really interested in doing. So I don't even know how I ever got excited about this affirmation. I can do all the things that I want to do. That we'll just put it there. We'll leave it there. All right. So I don't know everything, and I don't need to. Right. And so this is about owning your blind spots, realizing that wisdom isn't about knowing it all, that intelligence is not about knowing it all. Y'all have often heard me say this, that intelligence is not knowing what you know, it's knowing what you don't know and being curious enough to stay on that journey. That's all intelligence is. It's knowing. The smartest people in my opinion, and please, this is a hard conversation to have because smart is so hard to define, right? Especially from any subjective framework. I could define it within a pragmatist framework, which works for me. So, but the smartest people in the world are the people who live like they don't have the answers. That's why they're living in search of the answers. The people who we wouldn't qualify as the smartest people in the world are the people who are living like they have all of the answers. You know, this is one of the disingenuous things when I say people, when people try to say that science thinks it knows everything. And I'm like, you don't know much about science, do you? Science is the pursuit of knowledge, okay? Religion is pretending like you know shit that you ain't even try to know. Those are two different things. But that's where the majority of people are living. The majority of people are living like they already found the answers. The majority of people are living like they've already tested this stuff. But when you're intelligent, you wake up and you're like, oh, I know I don't know. And so I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure out as much as I can. Okay, we're talking about it. We're talking about it. So in intellectual humility, which another principle of this is non-defensive listening. You know, non-defensive listening. I'm not threatened by being challenged. And again, this goes back to that point that we hit earlier when we were still in the intro about sometimes people attach their sense of worth to being right or to other people seeing them as right. And so sometimes, and watch this, sometimes this shit chase back to childhood where you're sitting watching, maybe you're sitting in class and you raise your hand. I got the answer, Miss Gladys. I got the answer. And then you say the answer and the answer's wrong. Thank you, Lee B, for that super chat. That's beautiful, man. What a beautiful, I love y'all. Y'all are amazing. You raise your hand and maybe you get the answer wrong, you know? And what do you get? Oh, you got it wrong. Oh, you got it wrong. And I wonder if that ever impacts to the place where people feel that the only way people are gonna celebrate me is if I'm right all the time. That the only way if people are gonna value me is if I'm right if I'm right all the time. Those are places we gotta work on. Get it so we can get into that place of non-defensive listening where I'm not threatened by being challenged. I'm not gonna flinch when someone pushes back. And many times, oh, this is a hard one. This is a hard one. It's like, but sometimes even when other people are pushing back, they're not harming you. They're not harming you. They're just living. And I know this is a hard one to swallow. And I'm not saying that living isn't causing harm. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is their intention may not necessarily be to be harming you. Maybe they're having a lived experience and they're sharing that lived experience with you. And now you're offended by the way they're having that lived experience. That's how sometimes, so have you ever asked somebody a question and they felt like it was an attack and you knew you didn't mean it was an attack? Well, if you've ever had that experience, then you gotta be willing to give other people that same benefit of the doubt. That maybe they're not pushing back, maybe they're just living. Maybe they're not fighting me. Maybe they're just living. And maybe I can help them understand that I'm not fighting you. I'm just living. I'm just trying to live. I'm just trying to live and just trying to love. And these are the words that came to my mouth and came to my mind. And I said these words. I didn't know they were going to make you feel that way. See, sometimes you got to be willing to have the conversation about the conversation. So you're listening to understand, not just to reply. Changing your mind is a strength, not a shame. Right? I think that's an important principle of intellectual humility. That changing my mind is a strength. It's not a shame. This is why we are, one of our values at BridgeCity Global, one of our values is that we are progressive thinking. And in almost all of our little pamphlets that have that in it, that progressive thinking line in it, it says we are always open to new information. And I want to add a new tagline, and excited about it. It's not, see, like the idea of me being ashamed of getting something wrong only exists in a world where perfection exists. When I was a believer, shame made sense. When I was a believer, there was once a perfect society, just two people apparently, and it fell apart. And the rest of us have to somehow live up to the standard that we can't live up to. And so we should feel shamed that you're not living up to the standard. When I let go of religious superstition, the creation narrative went away. And then finally, I was able to be truthful with myself and say, oh, I don't even believe in perfection. And so now, because I don't believe in perfection, I have no real shame about being wrong. I may have something like, oh man, I see how that cost me, but I have no shame of being wrong. It's a part of living in a universe that is unknowable when you get here. Like, we got to do all the knowing on our part. When I used to believe that there was a God who was trying to tell us and I didn't know, then I felt like me not knowing was somehow a disconnect between me and God. But now, because I know that I'm living in a universe that is not trying to be known, not for real, it ain't even really trying to be known. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to do the work of knowing. And so because I'm comfortable doing the work of knowing, because I'm committed to doing the work of knowing, guess what I already know about myself? That I don't know everything. So like, why would I be ashamed of not knowing everything when there is nobody who knows everything? Like, even if we can't even fucking define everything. I'll let you sit in that. Define it. We can't even define everything. Know everything about what? There's too much of stuff out here. There's so much stuff that we literally have nothing. That's a whole nother thing. All right, let's go. So growth may look like contradiction, but it's actually evolution. And this is one of the reasons why, I don't know if y'all follow me on Facebook or anything like that, but I've been sharing this Keep Rising stuff. I've shared it on YouTube too, is that I'm hoping people begin to realize that evolution isn't just a scientific framework. There's art in that thing, man. And evolution isn't just about our biology. It's also about our sociology. It's about how we congregate and how we group together and how we work together. We evolve socially just as much as we do biologically. It's just the difference is we have much more control of our sociological evolution and can do it much faster. But when you look at these things, this is one of the reasons why I do advocate for a world where everybody is well versed in evolution and understands it, because there's beauty in it, there's poetry in it. And while yes, I do understand that the evolutionary process is not necessarily linear, but there's the beauty is that we don't come from some perfect design. We are designing ourselves, you know. We're designing ourselves. I almost want to go into a little bit of transhumanism on here, but we'll talk about that later. But this is good stuff. This is good stuff, right? Oh, man. Let's go. Let's go. So you can revise your beliefs when you're presented with new evidence. That's one of our values for our Bridge City community, is that we're open to changing our mind with new information. And many times you're better for it. But the only way, and hear me well, hear me well. The only way, though, that people are going to be able to feel safe being comfortable with being wrong, unless they're going to be like me. And you don't want everybody to be like me. The only reason I'm comfortable with being wrong is because I really don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up under the tutelage of people like Bernie Mac. I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. So like other people's thoughts about what I do don't bother me. They used to. It's something I've had to work on. But that's not how it works for everybody. All right, so let's continue. Separate ideas from identity. You know, Oh, there it is. I got to come back to it. And that was a perfect caveat, is that in order for this to work, in order for people to get confident, unless they all going to be like me, that means we also have to be more empathetic when people were wrong. You know, we have to stop. We have to stop this. I can't believe you was wrong for so long. Really? You can't believe that a human being was wrong for so long? You really can't believe that? Like, so I'm just going to call out that fallacy for you. Incredulity is what you're doing there, you know. And the reason I'm calling that out as a fallacy is to let you know that that's not a critical way to engage anybody. Like, number one, you're lying. Yes, you can believe that. That's something that's fairly easy to believe. It should be fairly easy to believe that people can be wrong, because we're still trying to fucking find out what right is. So please don't do that to people, all right? It is possible for people to be misinformed. It is possible for people to be to misunderstand. It is possible for people to have an entirely different lived experience than you that gives them a different rationale and a different way of engaging the world. I am not saying you have to agree with them, but I am saying please stop pretending like you shocked that somebody was wrong about something. That is not creating space where people are going to feel safe to be able to say, you know what, y'all? I think I was wrong. They're not going to have that space. It's going to be like that kid in the classroom who got the answer wrong one time and remembers everybody picking at him and decided to never try to answer a question again. You know? Oh, man. All right. Yeah. You know, I get a little stoic with shit like this. You know, I don't know. I don't know if stoic is the best word. But anyway, you got to learn how to separate ideas from identity. I can disagree without being disrespected. You can disagree without disrespecting me. Number one, I define, I don't want to say define, but that's the best word I can use for now. I define respect and disrespect in many different ways than other people do. Sometimes when people come up to me or when I'm counseling people and they say, yes, this person disrespected me. And I'm like, what? Like, I actually remember I had to protect somebody's job because she said she was getting coached about something. And she said under her breath, you gotta be kidding me. And so the person who was coaching her escalated that to his boss. And then it got escalated over to my side. And then I get these emails. And so I'm having to go kind of figure out what happened. And I listen to the conversation and I'm like, oh yeah, he's kind of being petty. And then she's just like, you got to be kidding me that this is what you're marking me down for. All right, that's a human response. He said, excuse me, and which to me is escalating. And I'm like, well, that was unnecessary. You heard what the fuck she said, and you know why she said it, and you should be human enough to understand that, you know. But instead, and she just said nothing, and they moved on, and they had the call. But he wanted to escalate it because he felt like this person had disrespected him. And so then my boss came in on the conversation and was like, hey, Darante, why haven't you, terminated this person? I'm like, because I listened to the call and she didn't say anything disrespectful. And then this other lady, she says, well, I think it was disrespectful. And then I had to call her ass out right in the conversation in front of everybody. Made her ass very awkward. But I'm like, no, that's what you're being is a supremacist. You're saying this person doesn't have the right to express their dissatisfaction. And there is nothing about what we pay anybody that gives us that superpower over them. People have the right to express their human emotions. She did not attack anybody else. She didn't attack anybody else's sense of self, sense of value or worth. She had a human expression. And this is what I told them. I said, it's people that take stuff like that and call it disrespect. Like, you're the reason that Jim Crow South existed. Because it ain't disrespect, it's blasphemy. It's blasphemy that somebody that you see beneath you had the audacity to be human. Okay, sorry, I had to go there. So no, people can disagree with you, and disagree doesn't equal disrespect. You know, someone that doesn't agree with you doesn't mean they're disrespecting you. This is so important to remember when you're having conversations with people you love. Even in conversations my wife and I have had, I've always, I've developed the habit of reminding, like, no, I just disagree. That's it. I'm not upset. I can see why you may see it that way. I just disagree, you know? And that's okay. We're going to live in that disagreement. Hallelujah. I don't know why I like throwing hallelujah in there. It just feels right. It feels right. Now let me stop. All right. So you don't need to protect your ego from every critique. You know, I don't fight battles without spoils unless I'm just being petty. And I can be petty sometimes. But by far and large, I'm not going to fight every battle that I'm invited to. I'm not going to fight every attack on my ego. And at this moment, as a content creator whose channel has grown, there are a lot of attacks on my ego. People don't like my beard. They don't like my glasses. They don't like my teeth. They don't like my eyebrows. Some people don't like my voice. Some people don't like my face, but then they don't like my face when it's blurry. And I'm like, I blurred it out for you. I'm just playing. But the point is, ideas can be explored without taking it personally. And watch this. And this is to give you some safety. Even when you take it personally, you can still explore the ideas. All right. When I first started creating content on this channel about my deconstruction, I got a lot of comments, and like, just be honest, people are rude. People are rude because they don't use this a lot, you know? So a lot of people who comment on Facebook, and I mean, even in the atheist community, they comment like they're a kid having a tantrum. Like, you know, it's like, oh my goodness. And that as a person who left Christianity for reasons like that, that's very unattractive to me. So it's not that I'm going to take it personally, but I'm going to feel it personally, because I'm just going to be like, ew, you know, like you're that type of person. Like when I was a pastor one time, I had this assistant, and I would preach somewhere else, and we went out to a restaurant, and she just complained the whole time we were at the restaurant. The whole time. I didn't expect this to taste like this. Why does this taste like everything? And in my mind, I was just like, oh. Now, she stayed my assistant because she wasn't mean to anybody or anything. She didn't do anything mean. She just approached some stuff in a way that I wouldn't prefer, because I consider that kind of like, that's just childish. We can just go to another restaurant after we leave here and get you something from somewhere else. You had never been to this restaurant before. This restaurant has never met you before. So how would they know how to make food that accommodates for you? So you're like a 3-year-old that says, I tasted this popsicle. It's nasty. You just immediately spit the food out like, whoa, you know? And I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not saying you can't. She stayed my assistant. She was a wonderful assistant, but I made up in my mind that day that, oh, I'll never go out to eat with you again. Because that's very uncomfortable for me. So I don't like it. So people on Facebook or on YouTube, they do that a lot. They do these like little tantrums where they just have to let everybody know what they're mad at, you know, or what they don't like. And, you know, and sometimes that's appropriate. This is how you know if it's appropriate. If there's some utility in it. You know what I'm saying? Like if there's some utility in it, it's appropriate. Most times it's not, you know? But anyway, so one of the things that people were saying when I first started doing it was, you need to stop that music. Turn that damn music off. Why do you got music playing? Now, obviously, I don't know what these people sound like, but that's how I'm going to read it. If it comes off like a jackass is saying it, I'm going to read it in the tone of a jackass, you know, and I could be wrong, you know, but I didn't like that. I didn't like that, like that people aimed at me like that. I was like, oh, rude. How dare you? You know, I was upset, and I thought about it, and I was like, but D, that's like 5 people who done said that shit though, bro. And maybe, think about it this way. Maybe they're not telling you they hate the music, which it wasn't even my music. You know, it's just music from YouTube. Maybe they're not telling you they hate the music. Maybe what they're trying to tell you is that they value your voice. And I was like, oh shit. Let me take away the music off of my new videos, you know? So now I still can acknowledge that these people were being jackasses, but just because someone who is saying something is being a jackass about what they're saying doesn't mean I can't explore that information to see if there's actually something helpful for me there. And as you see, it was. You see how that works? Now, and I still completely acknowledge that there was a jackass. That's how that goes. All right. Moving on. Are y'all enjoying this today? Y'all got to let me know, man. Talk to your boy in the chat. Let me see some fire. Let me see some fire. I don't know why I like the fire. The fire just makes me feel good. Let's go. All right, so now let's talk about emotional regulation. Let's talk about emotional regulation, man. Lead yourself first, right? Lead yourself first. Again, emotional maturity doesn't mean you don't feel deeply. It means you don't let temporary feelings drive permanent damage. Okay? And I wanna expound on that because there's a lot here to this. So, emotional maturity in this aspect, in this essence. Sorry, can't get my words out. English, man, English. The emotions we feel in conflict are real. That's important to understand. Anger is real. Frustration is real. Disappointment is very real, you know. And one of the things that I do coach people on is like, we often say anger when we see somebody being mad, but I often ask people, and if you interrogate it a little bit, what you will find behind anger is hurt, you know? Not saying that the hurt is always valid, but it's almost always at the root of it. And so things like disappointment can turn into anger. Any of you who are parents before, you know that's something you have to meter out. Disappointment is not something I deal with as much anymore. But if you come from this superstitious background, then disappointment is something you got to deal with. I remind people disappointment is the child of false expectation, but disappointment can sometimes evolve into anger, and these are very real feelings. But just because something is real doesn't mean it should be ruling your behavior, because when emotions go unregulated, they become weapons. And one of the number one killers of trust, of closeness, and a real connection is verbal recklessness. Oh man, come on, man. So I know somebody gonna feel me here. Whether you've been on the receiving side or the giving side, because even when you're on the giving side, you know when you know what it feels like to have said something reckless. You know what it feels like to be in a conversation with somebody you love and the words come out your mouth faster than you can think about them. That verbal recklessness. Words spoken in the heat of a moment can create coldness that lasts a lifetime. And it's not always the big words. Sometimes it's the sarcasm. Sometimes it's the dismissal. I know a bad one for me that I constantly have to remind myself, you can't do that. That you always. Oh, it's so easy to reach for, ain't it? You always. Or what's his twin brother? What's the twin sister? Or the twin whatever? You never. Right? You always. You never do this for me. You never do. Oh man, that stuff can wear a person down. Do you ever ask yourself, am I being reckless with my verbiage? I've seen families divided not by one major event, but by years of unfiltered, unregulated emotion. Parents who now wonder why their children won't trust them. Siblings who don't understand why an apology won't fix the situation. Friends who don't realize that their unchecked outbursts have cost them their community. Here's the truth. If you do not regulate your feelings will regulate your future. You cannot lead a conversation well if you haven't led yourself first. So before you show up in disagreement, ask yourself, and listen, y'all, I'm not saying any of this as if I've mastered it. Like, I'm talking about this stuff because this is stuff that I've learned that is healthy. But as a person who is a lifetime smoker, I can tell you I don't always make the healthy choices. So I don't want anybody to feel shamed when you know you're not making the right choice. Like, because when I'm smoking them cigarettes, I don't necessarily feel bad. I don't. I know, like, damn, bruh, you giving yourself a slow death. But because I know that, I know, hey, so you gotta live a certain way with your life if you want to counteract that at all, So you gotta be willing to kind of flow, to be able to lead yourself in this. So before you show up in the disagreement, ask yourself, am I emotionally equipped for this right now? What do I actually gain if I win this? All right. Am I emotionally equipped? Can I handle this? Right? You know, and it's like what I used to tell people when they used to do the marriage thing, for better or for worse, richer or poor. Everybody always smiles and say yes. I said, now when you think about that, you're thinking about the better and the richer. I need you to think long and hard about the worse and the poor, you know? And that's sometimes the things that we don't think about. We often don't think about the negative possibilities. So when you're asking yourself, am I emotionally equipped for this conversation? Let me catch where probably 80% of you went immediately when I said it. Am I emotionally equipped to win the conversation? And that's not what this question is about. This question is not, am I emotionally equipped to win this conversation? Am I emotionally equipped to have this conversation, to stay present in this conversation, regardless of the outcome? Am I emotionally equipped for that? And then to take it a step further, am I emotionally equipped to participate in this conversation and be present in this conversation, even if the outcomes are something I don't want? And think about what those outcomes are. What if this person is about this? What if the outcome, because a lot of times, you already know what you're afraid of in the conversation. You already know what you're afraid of. That's one of the reasons you avoid the conversations. You avoid the conversations because you're afraid of a certain outcome, which means you're going to have to confront the possibility of that outcome in order to be intellectually humble and emotionally mature in that conversation. You got to already be like, the outcome could be that they really think this about me. Oh, am I emotionally equipped to handle that outcome? See, we're talking about people you love, right? These are different types of conversations. And then what do I actually gain if I do win this? If all I get, if I win this, is to be able to say that I won this, then I think there are better things I could be doing with my time. Now, that's how I approach things. No, because let's think about this. Disagreements are high energy conversations, whether they're loud or not. Disagreements are high energy conversations. They can be exhausting because they are so demanding on your biology, on your psychology. These are high energy conversations. Man. Oh man, thank you, Monkey at Typewriter, $5. Man, healthy choices are tough. Smoked for 20 years, quit a year ago when I realized I was smoking more than half of my life. You can get off them, yo. I love you, man. That is beautiful. Arguments are high energy. If I'm going to be in this conversation, if I'm going to expend this amount of energy, it can't just be for a participation trophy. Oh my goodness. Nope. If I'm going to put out this much energy, if I'm going to invest this much time in a conversation, do you see how the value of arguments just changed right there? Nope. If I'm going to be in this conversation, if I'm going to be expending that much energy, that much, then what am I getting out of this? What, like that I'm not being a very good steward of my energy if I'm just in this to get a participation trophy. If I'm just in this to be able to say, see, I was right about this. No, there has to be something in this. And most times there is. The fact that I can't see something in it means that I'm about to invest more energy than I've invested thought into this. Oh man, don't be that person. Don't be the people where you're investing more energy into your conversation than thought. I'm getting all hyped up and upset, and I haven't even tried to look for a way to get something out of this, you know? And so one of the things you can ask yourself when you're in any when you're having any disagreement with somebody is that not only what are the possible outcomes here, but which one of those possible outcomes is the preferred option? In other words, what do I actually want out of this conversation? And then sometimes you will realize that, like, actually, there's nothing I want out of this conversation then you're probably just being argumentative and defensive for no reason then. You don't actually have a goal. Uh-oh. Did I help you? Because we've been talking about this for 4 weeks now. Like having a goal in a conversation is a part of good faith. And so when you ask, what do I actually gain if I win this? And if you rephrase that question, ask yourself, what do I want to get out of this conversation? And you don't have an answer, then you're not even intentionally engaging the conversation. You are reflexively engaging the conversation. And we're going to need you to do better than that. Nope. So you got to ask yourself, is this a moment to build a bridge, or is this a moment to set a boundary? You know, bridge building, boundary building. Bridge building, boundary building. Which one are we doing? We can be building bridges or we can be building barriers. But what it is unfair to do is to be sitting in that disagreement, expending all of that energy while that other person is doing the same and not being honest with them that you're not even there in good faith. Nope, that's not fair. You need to be able to tell them, look, I don't have any plans for this conversation. Because then they're going to realize that's why this is likely going to turn into a long argument. Because there's no conclusion. On your side, there's no possible conclusion. There's just a winner and a loser, or two losers, which is often what happens in those cases. Oh, man. All right. Because every disagreement is essentially a test, not of your intelligence, but of your emotional integrity, you know? And I think that's one of the best ways to say it. And the reason I say emotional integrity, because again, when we can't handle certain things, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. And that's we've tried to frame this conversation this way this whole time. When you're having disagreements with people, it doesn't mean that these people are bad people. But a lot of times, from what we're talking about from a therapeutic standpoint, is the reason we respond or react in the way that we've done is because you're now revealing the flaws in our emotional integrity, which means here's a place emotionally that isn't defended as well as it should be. It isn't supported as well as it should be. And so what you're seeing sometimes from me in an argument is that flaw in my emotional integrity, that I don't feel as safe there as I thought I did. I haven't processed that. And sometimes in arguments, that shit come out. Is this good, y'all? Damn. And so the strongest person in the room isn't the one who talks the loudest. It's the one who can feel everything and still temper their words, you know? Lawrence has a great song that I was gonna play today, but I think we learned our lesson from playing Lawrence music. They shut that shit down immediately. Even though we have played somebody else singing the song, I should have found that. But it's a song called Fighting Words, you know? And it's like, let's throw out those fighting words. We're almost grown. So if you're looking for something to listen to, that'll go very well with today's session. Check out Fighting Words by Lawrence. But emotional regulation isn't about shutting down. It's about showing up in a way that reflects your values and not just your volume. Because let's be honest, most of us are reacting from wounds, not wisdom, you know? But the longer you're hanging out with me, we're going to do our best to help you turn those wounds into wisdom, you know? So not every battle is your burden. Not every trigger deserves a tug of war. When you regulate your emotions, you don't shrink them, you shape them. And in a hard conversation, that shape can either be a dagger or it can be a door, you know? So if you're not open to being wrong, you're likely not ready to be in the conversation. And that's something you have to be willing to confront and admit, all right? Now, there are two ways you can look at this. You can say, hey, I'm not open to being wrong about this. Parents often deal with this one, especially parents who have children who may not feel like the parents were the best parents. There are many times the parent in their mind is like, I'm not even open to this, all right? If you're not open to that possibility, then you're to that what the other person is saying is valid. If you're not even open to that, then you really shouldn't be in the conversation. And it's really that simple. And that already says quite a bit about how you intentionally value or undervalue the other people that you're in relationship with. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. If you've made up in your mind without hearing from them that they're valid, or that they're not valid, just because you can't stomach the thought of that being the case, that's a major red flag. A major red flag. It's very simple. Very simple. And that's, again, that's why we open up this series with good faith. If the whole time you're in the conversation, you're not even open to seeing that what I'm saying is valid, then, oh man, like, you're wasting my time and you're wasting your energy, you know? All right. So most people show up ready to preach, not ready to participate, you know? And honestly, because of the way I talk, that's something that I have to be mindful of, that it often sounds like I'm preaching even when I'm participating, you know? But humility isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking more about what you don't yet know. And it's about learning how to ask more than you argue, clarify before you correct. And if the other person isn't asking you any questions, they're not trying to understand you. They're trying to win. Man. $2 super chat. Thank you, Team ONB. Holidays with extended family and arguments. Oh, yes. All of this is perfect for those type of things. Honestly, man, check out all. Look, I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to plug this, right? Check out all four. I think that was the survey question today, is how many of you have caught all four of these? Listen, good faith, keep rising, snowball evolution. Actually, Team ONB, snowball evolution. And trust issues. Good call, Kyle. Trust issues. Actually, damn, since Kyle just put it out there like that, because that's the best way to say it. Holidays with extended families and arguments. What do you want to do? How do you want to approach that? All right, everybody lean in real close. Everybody lean in real close. This is what you want to do. This is how you want to handle it. And I'm so tempted to say this is the miracle drug right here. I want to stoke that FOMO as much as I can. Fear of missing out. This is it. This is the cure. This is the elixir. This is Darante LaMar's #1 way to help your family have healthier arguments. Are you ready? Get your family connected to Bridge City Global Sunday Sessions. That's what you do. Did I do it? Did everybody get it? Is that it? Is that how we do it? I think that's it. I think I just won the game. I think that's, no, honestly, because, and the reason I'm saying that, and this has been my critique, this is why we do what we do. I said we're creating Sunday sessions not to have conversations that are just about beating people up, not about having conversations that show, ooh, this how smart we is, but we're having conversations, what do I say, that matter. Conversations about the stuff that matter. To who? To individuals, not believers and non-believers, but just people. And so at the end of the day, regardless of what people believe, everybody wants a healthier family. You know what I'm saying? I know I can't say everybody. Some people like want no family at all, but that might be your version of healthier family. So everybody wants a better way to deal with other people. We want ways to preserve our relationships. And what I'm telling people is that community is the key. And the thing is, sorry, I'm stuttering. I guess it's that good for me. The thing is, in order for people to know what their options are, there have to be places that are creating conversations around those options. If every fight you've seen and every conversation you've seen about arguments and personal growth have either come from the church or just regular life, then likely you're not getting exposed to a lot of healthy stuff about how to deal with disagreements. And so many times, a lot of what kills family arguments and disagreements is that a lot of people have superstitions that are cultural and religious that make them feel attacked in the place of disagreement. And so the only way we can really counteract that is we can't use Band-Aids for this. We're gonna need a bigger boat. You hear me? There's no Band-Aid situation. We're not gonna be able to fix one family at a time. we're going to need a bigger boat. And I'm here to tell you that Bridge City Global is that bigger boat. We have to build something that is big enough and present enough that families can start being connected to on a weekly basis. And then see, like, y'all, no key. This is how you educate the world. You get people who care about it, who are willing to gather around it every week. And you say, you know what? One problem we're seeing in our communities right now is that families have a hard time talking to each other. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a whole teaching series. And right now we're just online. So that's all I can do is a teaching series, just because we're just online. But I'm working my ass off to get us local. Because then you can say, and not only are we going to do a whole 2 months teaching series about family therapy, family relationships. I actually have one planned for 2026, the 5 dysfunctions of a family. But not only are we going to do a whole conversation series on it, we're going to build small groups around it so that people can have group therapy types of time, so they can talk through things in the safety of the comfort of their peers, which allows people to be more vulnerable and honest. But not only that, since we're doing this series, we're going to do a few projects in the community that bring awareness to family dysfunction and make people feel safer, not only calling it out, but playing an active role in healing it. Do you see how community does that? But see, you can't do any of that if you don't already have a group that's meeting weekly. If you haven't checked out our website, I suggest you go there now. bridge.dldd.us. If you're really out there and you're wanting to change the world, if you're really out there and you're wanting to make a difference, then you need to be the bridge. All right, back to regularly scheduled programming, y'all. I'm sorry. Y'all blame it on the super chat. Super chat did it. All right. So if you're in a conversation with somebody, and this again, this is one of those things you can use as a red flag for good faith. If you're having a conversation with a person, and typically we're talking about these conversations with the people that you love, and so these conversations, again, are typically personal conversations. They're not about God, it's you did this to me, or you said this to me type of things. When you're having these type of conversations, if you're in this high energy of a conversation with someone and they are not asking you questions, they are not trying to understand, they're just trying to win, and use that to check yourself. If I've been in this argument for 2 hours and this whole time I've not asked this other person why they feel that way, I've not asked this person, could you help to clarify that for me? You know what I'm saying? I've assumed, I've treated them like everything they've said, I've perfectly understood. And the proof that I've not perfectly understood it, you know what I'm saying, is that this is still an argument. Okay. So curiosity is a greater sign of intelligence than confidence will ever be. God damn it, I'm gonna say that one again. That's worthy of a clip. Curiosity is a greater sign of intelligence than confidence will ever be. You're not less powerful when you say you don't know. You're more trustworthy. You're not less powerful. You're more trustworthy. There's also active listening, which is the practice of presence, which I love that. Most people aren't listening. This is a truth. This is a truth. When my videos were blurry, and it was a YouTube thing, like I'm a techie guy, but I'm software tech, not hardware. So I don't know what to do with that stuff. And honestly, I don't care. I didn't sign up to be that, I'm gonna share the content. If it's not great, until we have a production person to stress out over it, I'm not gonna stress out over it. I would have no utility of stressing out over things that I can't actually do anything about, But one person had commented and he was like, when are you gonna focus? And he says, when are you gonna fix your focus? That's what he commented on my video. When are you gonna fix your focus? And I know, y'all know, I've pretty much stopped responding to negative stuff. I had the bots running for a while and I took those off. And then I started responding a little bit for a while. And then I don't really respond. It's just way too much. But I did respond to this one because I thought it was funny. He said, when are you going to fix your focus? You know what my response was? The irony of this comment. Now, I know this isn't a case of him listening, but it's the same thing, because the point is most people aren't listening. He didn't even realize that his critique was more so for him than it was for me. He said, when are you going to fix your focus? No, bruh. When are you going to fix your focus? I'm not here to be your celebrity. You know, I'm not here to be your spick and shine and everything looks good for you. In the words of James Baldwin, I am not your Negro. You know what I'm saying? So instead of you focusing on the words, instead of you're focusing on the value, you're focused on a minor quality flaw that you have absolutely no capacity to influence whatsoever, which at this moment, you're just like a kid saying you want Mickey D's when you ain't got no Mickey D's money. Okay, I gotta stop taking these rabbit trails. You know, the point is, most people aren't listening. They're just waiting for their turn to sound smart. But active listening is the secret weapon of emotional maturity. It's how we show someone, I don't just hear your words, I care about your world. Now, I got to brag on myself a little bit, but it's a weird brag. The brag is the first part. The second part is petty. The brag is I'm incredibly good at active listening. Oh, man, I'm good at it. But the next part is the part I was getting to. I'm so good at active listening that I've learned how to weaponize it. I've learned how to weaponize it, which is why I don't do debates. Everybody kind of knows this about me. But I do the line, you know, because at the line, I don't consider that a debate. These people are not my equals who are calling. This is not someone where we've compared credentials, and this is not somebody where we have an equal consideration for the subject, an equal concern for the subject matter. None of that is happening. Nope. So there, I weaponize my active listening, which means I'm listening to every single thing you say. And I'm not necessarily going to use it against you because I still find that unethical. It's not necessary. And again, like there's no utility in it, just using it against you. I use your words against you. Ooh, lucky me. No, instead, I'm going to use it to undermine your argument. I don't have to give you new words to undermine your argument when you've already given me so many good stupid ones to use. So I'm just going to use those. You see how that works? But I weaponize active listening. And that's just for those of you who are watching and who are like, you know, I like active listening, but damn, can I ever use it for evil? I just taught you how. And that's why Sunday sessions are better than church. All right, so let me say it this way. If you're not asking follow-up questions, you're not building, you're bulldozing. Real listening sounds like, let me make sure I heard that right. So you're saying that what mattered most to you was. Like, have you ever asked yourself that question when you're in a disagreement with somebody? Like, what really matters to this person? And watch this. Here's a trick. If you've never asked yourself what matters most to the other person in the argument, then you've likely never asked them either. You know what I'm saying? And that's probably why you don't know. But if you get into the habit of asking yourself that, what matters? Like, and I mean, you can like to give it some heat. Give it some heat. Like, ask yourself, like, why the fuck are they talking about this? Why do they care about this? Why does this matter to them? Say that to you. Don't say it to them. Don't say that to them. That's your inside voice. That's your inside conversation. You are going to escalate the fuck out of the conversation if you say it to them, unless y'all cool like that. And some people are cool like that. But you ask that question to you. Why is this important to them? Why does this matter to them? Why are they so upset about this? And then find a way to ask those questions to them. To say, you know what? I noticed that you are really upset about this. I didn't expect you to be this mad. Can I ask, what is it about this that brought this type of reaction from you? And I know it all sounds calm right now because I'm not actually arguing with anybody. So please don't feel like you got to try to mimic my voice and go into all James Earl Jones mode when you do this, you know. But you create the safety and you start building that muscle. And if you get into the habit of having these questions for yourself, it will make it easier for you to start having questions for them as well, you know. And that's why, like, even when you want to do that knee-jerk reaction, ask, like, when you have that knee-jerk reaction, you know there's something specific that you want to say. Ask yourself, like, if there was something else I knew about this, would I have a different response? Would I have a different reaction? And so then that could give you the space to say, okay, can I ask something about that before I respond? I was just getting ready to respond, but now I realize, like, I may not know this part. So can I ask something about that? And at that moment, like, that's when you're moving this from an interrogation to an investigation. And that's a that's a good way to talk about this. Because that's another reason people are uncomfortable asking questions, because they don't want to sometimes they don't want to make the other person feel like they're being interrogated, you know. And that's a good line to remember, is that I'm looking for something to build, not something to reveal. You know what I'm saying? In a sense. So we're looking for something to explore. Damn, I'm gonna give some time to that. I think we just slipped up on something. That might have to be a whole series in itself. All right, so people soften. And I think we've seen it. People soften when they feel seen. Listening is the most disarming act of communication. Just listening. And not just listening, but being intentional about communicating that you're listening. Communicating in ways that evidence you listen. Has someone ever said something to you and it just made you feel good because you were like, oh, they really heard me? You know what I'm saying? So, oh dang, this is good, man. This is good. Now this last one for this segment is set boundaries, not traps. All right. So before you dive into the deep end of a disagreement, ask yourself, and this is a very important conversation, very question. Is there a shared goal here? That's a question you got to ask yourself. You got to be very upfront with that. Is there a shared goal here? You know, some arguments aren't worth having. And you won't know that if you don't go through this process. And so you'll be out here ruining friendships, relationships, partnerships with people that you genuinely care about, not because of something that you genuinely cared about, but because both of you or more of you were triggered and were not in that place of emotional maturity to interrogate your own emotional integrity. And so then you end up losing a friend because y'all couldn't agree on what color a shirt was. And then it started with the shirt. And now we talking about, well, you can't even pick good men. And then now y'all just done went down this whole damn rabbit trail where if y'all would have been at BridgeCity Global Sunday sessions, listening to this series, y'all would have thought about it. Like, this ain't even a real argument worth having. There's no utility here. I don't really give a fuck what color the shirt is. That's not going to be the conversation that's going to ruin this relationship, is it? Have you ever thought about that? Like, when you're in a tense relationship, when you're in a tense conversation with someone that you love and someone that you care about, and it starts getting really intense, ask yourself, am I gonna be okay if this is the conversation that ruins the relationship? Is that how important this conversation is? Is that the weight of it? Is that how weighty this topic is? And sometimes it might be. There are a few like that for me. I told y'all in the beginning, I've let certain people know we're good. We don't have to do relationship no more. We ain't got to play that game. I don't have to hate you, but we don't have to do relationships anymore. You know? But no, so the answer sometimes might not be yes. Even when it's no, you need to have it there. But the big thing is there a shared goal? Do we both want clarity, or is one of us just performing? And that's one of the hardest things. And again, people who are performing are not always doing it because they're bad people. Sometimes they're doing it just because they're not healthy communicators. And healthy communication has not really been a standard in most people's lives. You know what I'm saying? As of now, We don't even make healthy communication a standard for the White House. I'm just saying. And that ain't new. God damn it. That ain't new. All right? So you got to ask yourself, are there rules for engagement? Or is there a chance that this whole conversation is actually just chaos in a costume? That's having that intellectual humility, you know? If the conditions for building don't exist, you don't have to pretend like they do. You know, this is why, like, I know some of you, and I love you, and you love me. That's why you keep showing back up. But some of you don't like the fact that I don't engage trolls, you know, and you don't like the fact that I call them all trolls. But I call them all trolls because if they were sincere, they wouldn't be in my YouTube comments. It's just not how sincerity works. And I say that because I was sincere for 2 decades. And I didn't spend my sincere time, trying to convince people who already said they disagreed. The conditions for the conversation don't exist. What did I spend my sincerity doing? Building a church. What did I spend my sincerity doing? Feeding the homeless. What did I spend my sincerity doing? You know what I'm saying? Clothing the homeless. So no, I will not lower my sense of self to argue with a random troll who is not sincere. Because sincere folk are busy. So the conditions for building, if the conditions for building don't exist, we don't have to pretend like they do. If someone's goal is to twist your words, shame your beliefs, or bait you into an ego battle, you don't have to walk into that trap just to prove your integrity. Now, I'm going to say something that's going to make me a little unpopular for some people. It is what it is. But this is the only thing I could think of to give this type of example. Because I think this will hit a chord with some of you. I think one of the reasons, and I say this is going to hit people the wrong way because some of you think I'm trying to make an excuse for doggish men, and I'm not. It's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show people the culture that we've created. We created a culture that made monogamy standard, normalized. It's the only way to do it. And so you have people out there who don't feel that monogamy is the only way to do it, but they feel that they're not going to be able to have relationships with anybody because of what? Because nobody accepts that as normal. Okay? Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is because when I was a pastor, this was a thought experiment that I ended up having to run by watching how many people that I counseled who were actually dealing with polygamous relationships. And then as I began to kind of study this phenomenon, I was surprised at how many people where the dude had been honest and had mentioned that, you know, I don't see myself ever settling down with one person. I prefer to have multiple relationships. I'm not saying all guys were honest, but I'm saying I've seen cases where the guys were honest. And what was interesting to me is how those conversations always went. It was never a conversation of, oh, that's cool. I'm not looking for that. I am looking for someone who just wants to be in a monogamous relationship, but there's nothing wrong with you for wanting that. That's never how the conversations went. The way the conversations went is, you disgusting. You just want to be a sinner. All right. So if people who know that they feel that way, if they know that's going to be the response from everybody they talk to, what are they going to stop doing? Being honest with people. You know what I'm saying? And the way I came across that is because I was in a counseling session where I had to remind somebody of these exact words. If the conditions for building don't exist, don't pretend that they do. So when this brother told you what he really wanted, why would you pretend that he just said something else? Because that's what you did when you tried to make this relationship anything other than that, you know? And I you know, you don't want to get counseling with me. I was a different type of guy. The big point is, and this is about arguments, but if the conditions for building don't exist, don't pretend they do. If someone's goal is to twist your words, shame your beliefs, or bait you into an ego battle, you don't have to walk into that trap just to prove your integrity. You don't have to do that. And honestly, we have to stop making people feel like they do. We got to get real comfortable that sometimes the people that you love are going to want something different out of life than you do. And you got to wrestle with what that means. And sometimes that may mean that I'm going to have to love you in a different way now. That may mean that because you may not want what they want. We have become way too uncomfortable with separation. It's like separation anxiety. Many people sabotage their relationships because they're afraid of separation and then end up creating the separation. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, no, and again, I was one of those people. I was terrified of separation. I was afraid. I had abandonment issues. No, I don't have those issues anymore. I'm good now. And I realized, like, a lot of times for me, well, I'll be honest, I'll get naked so you don't have to. I realized that for me, I was being incredibly unfair to people. At that moment, you become manipulative, not realizing it. You become controlling even when you're not being assertive. Because your goal now becomes to preference what you want over what they want. So because I want you to be in my life, that should be all that matters. Doesn't matter if you like being in my life or not. You see what I'm saying? You got to think about it. I know it's heavy. It's heavy. It's heavy. Don't call me your doctor. Oh, man. All right. This is good stuff, man. You are allowed to say, I don't think this is a good conversation, a good faith conversation. You are allowed to say, let's come back to this when we can actually hear each other. Setting boundaries and disagreements with people you love is one of the most emotionally intelligent acts you can practice. It's not about building walls. At that moment, it's about preserving the connection and protecting clarity. So I do want to give you a few human-centered ways to set boundaries through tough conversations, and then we're going to wrap this up. So one of them is, and again, this is about people that you love, name the need, not the problem. Okay? Name the need, not the problem. So I want to keep this conversation healthy, but I need us to slow down so we can actually hear each other. Instead of saying, you talking too fast. Well, see, that's the problem. What's the need? I need to be able to hear you so I can understand. You see? Start with what you need to stay present, not what they're doing wrong. This will help reduce the defensiveness and keeps the focus on connection, And then set the pace, not just the topic, A lot of times we set the topic, and the more you're willing to treat your life critically, it'll be funny at times, because then you'll find yourself doing things that are like, oh, this is so weird. But one way you can do this is when you're getting ready to have a conversation with somebody and it's going to be a high energy one. Before you get in a conversation, both of y'all just get a blank piece of paper. It doesn't have to be a big one. Y'all can share a piece if you want to, but you just need a separate sheet. Get a blank piece of paper. And the question is, how important is this topic to you? 1 through 10. 10 being the most important, 1 being the least important. How important is this conversation to you? And don't say another word. Both of you just write your numbers down. And before you start the conversation, exchange papers and look at them. Oh, man. Damn, this one is good. And I just thought of that one on the fly. This one has to get tested. This one has to get tested and marketed, man. Nope. And then switch papers right before the conversation. Because what that's going to do, it's going to be emotionally jarring to see we're either aligned on how important this is. I mean, imagine you're both arguing about something and you go into the conversation thinking this doesn't even matter to them, and you get their piece of paper and you're both at a 9 or a 10. Or how relieved you would be even if theirs came back at a 1 and yours was at a 10. Because then okay, now I get it. They're not as invested in this as I am. It's a really simple trick, but I'll tell you now, this only works if you're both adults. It only works if you're willing to break the madness every now and then. Some people, when they're arguing, and I get it, they just want to be mad. People don't like when I say it, and I say it, and maybe I'll find a reason not to. But at that moment, you're being childish. And I do it too. Like, I want to be mad right now, but when I do that, I'm gonna let myself know, like, Darante, you being childish, like, because you know better. Like, you know better. You know this isn't gonna help. So you're doing something that you know isn't gonna help, which means you're kind of doing it for attention at this moment. It's a tantrum, And I have a right to throw tantrums if I want to. It's my body. I can do what I want to. If I want to throw a tantrum with my body, I can. I just also have to be aware enough of the consequences that come from that. And if I'm having a conversation with someone that I love, I got to be mindful of the memories that I'm creating for them when I have this tantrum. I can apologize, we can move on, but you're going to have that memory. You're going to have that memory. And so if there are ways that we can safeguard our conversations, ways that we can say, hey, let's push the brakes, let's try this before we go any further, I think that's something we can do, So you want to set the pace, not just the topic. This is most important to me. You kind of let people know, like, if we're at that disconnect, I see this isn't really important to you. Maybe we're not in the right space to solve it right now. Can we come back to this when we're both more grounded on the issue? Sometimes the best boundary is timing itself. It is okay to realize when it's not a good time to have a conversation. I know this is going to be a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, but your feelings don't get to dictate when is a good time for something. It just don't work that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, if my feelings got to determine when a good time for something was, it would never be a good time to pay bills, ever. Like, I don't feel like doing that shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm mad that we live in a world where I got to do that. The working ain't the problem. That I don't mind working. I love to work, as a matter of fact. It's the paying bills part that's the problem. If I got to work and keep all the money, I'd be so happy. So no, your feelings don't, it just don't. They don't, and sometimes you can rough up a conversation by forcing it when the timing simply is not there for it. Something else is on the menu, something else is going on, and this is what you want to bring to the table right now. Oof. You're pretty much guaranteeing that this conversation isn't going to get the respect that it deserves. So timing can be a major boundary. You can affirm the importance of the topic without forcing it into a heated moment. If this is going to be a bad time for this conversation, if I value the conversation, I want a better time for it. You see what I'm saying? It's like planning. If this is going to be a bad time for me to plan this event, but I actually want people to show up at the event, then I need to choose a better time. All right. So if this is going to be a bad time for this other person to show up in the conversation, and I actually want them to show up in the conversation, then I am going to need a better time. And then also, again, clarify the goal. I want to understand you, not fight you. It can feel awkward at sometimes, but get in that habit of reminding the people that you love that you're not their enemy. Get in that habit of, no, I want to understand. I don't want to win. Can we agree that the goal here is to understand each other? Even if we don't agree at the end, can we agree on that? Because, and the thing is, if you've been struggling or living under religious superstition, then you likely prioritize agreement as a mile marker that everything is okay. And that's why disagreement is so hard for so many people. Disagreement is hard because cultural and religious superstition has superimposed this idea that if we don't agree, we don't love each other. Or that if we don't agree, we can't walk together. or that if we don't agree, there must be a mismatch, you know? And it's this, unfortunately, what we didn't realize is that the bathwater that bullshit was coming from was the bathwater of sameness. That's why disagreement was such a threat. That's coming from the bathwater of intentional homogeneity. Homogeneousness. Homogeneous. I can't find the fucking word. But intentional. You know, that comes from a framework of intentionally trying to make everybody the same. You've got to resist that and realize we could be madly in love and disagree. We could disagree, and I could still go in there and clap them cheeks. Hallelujah. That's good. Sorry, I had to do it. I couldn't resist. That's how my neurospicy works. I can pretty much think about clapping cheeks at any time. It works that way. All right, so I want to understand you, not fight you. You know, can we agree on that before going further? Boundaries aren't just limits, you know, they're agreements. If there's no shared goal, the conversation isn't just conflict, it's performance at that moment. And then you can also use reset language, because this is boundaries, man. Say stuff like, let's pause. Can we try that again? But without the sarcasm, you know? And watch this. Let me tell you when that works best. Because I promise you, the way you heard it is probably not the way that it works best. The way you heard it is probably the way that you're going to escalate that. The way you use that is when you were the one who used the sarcasm. Please don't do this when they were the ones who used the sarcasm. That's the wrong way to use this weapon, all right? That's the wrong way to use this one, okay? Turn it around the other way. If you are the one that used the sarcasm, immediately after you do it, oh, dang, can we pause and start over, try that again, this time without the sarcasm? Oh my goodness, you're gonna make them feel good. Maybe. It depends on how bad you pissed them off up to that moment. But it's gonna help. If you've made it really, really bad, it's gonna help. Acknowledge that what you just did probably, you know, sent the conversation, was getting ready to send the conversation in another way, and then use that reset language while being honest and vulnerable by saying, yep, I did this. You rolled your eyes, damn. Can we try this one more time with less eye rolling? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, you know? I told y'all my big thing is you always. I say it a lot. You always or you never. So I'll catch myself now when I do it. You always, you know what? I did not mean to say that, and I'm so sorry for saying it. I catch myself because I know it's wrong. Just because I'm feeling it when I say it doesn't mean I have to ignore the fact that that's wrong. Like for me, it's mathematically wrong. It's an absolute. It's a fallacy. It's wrong. Doesn't matter how I feel when I say it. I'm smart enough to know that it's wrong. So if I'm smart enough to know that it's wrong, once I hear myself say it, immediately I'm going to catch it. I'm going to do my best to catch it. I said it. Well, you never, I am so sorry for saying that. I didn't mean it. And I'm apologizing because I know the words have already been said. So just because I didn't feel the damage don't mean the damage hasn't already been done. Oh, this is good. Oh, the words have already been said. Just because I'm not the one dealing with the damage doesn't mean the damage hasn't been done. And so even when it's just a slip up, even when I didn't go any further, I'm going to catch it and apologize. Not for my sake, but to let this other person know that I actually care about you, even when we're in disagreements. And that I care about being as accurate as possible in the way that I demonstrate my concern for you. And so if I am concerned for you, and I know that there's something I've said that can create harm for you, and I don't have to actually say it, then the least I can do is apologize when I do. You see how that works? See how that works? That's boss level, you know? So you don't have to tolerate toxic tones or emotional jabs. A soft reset can redirect the tone without escalating the tension. And what I'd encourage everyone is to model that first. The more we model that, it makes it easier for other people to do it. You know? Thing is, make it safe for people to bow out of the conversation. Even if that means it might change the way you look at them a little bit. If you know Make it safe. Do these soft resets. Look for ways to build up, not to tear down. Because 9 times out of 10, unless they're building something that's going to be harming other folks, you're not tearing down anything but the person or the relationship. And neither one of those likely are worth tearing. So look for those ways. If it's not something that's about other people's value and things like that, then find ways to preserve relationships with the people that you love. And again, and when I say other people's value, I mean yours too. So I am in no way encouraging anybody to try to rebuild relationships with toxic people. You don't have to do that. The benefit of the doubt of these conversations are we're only talking about the people who you love and who love you. That's my requirement. I am one of those people who I believe love is conditional. Love is conditional as fuck for me. When with other adults, I think the only people I have unconditional love for is the kids. Everybody else, there's conditions on this motherfucker. And so one of the biggest conditions I have for anybody that I'm going to give my love to, because I give a lot of love, man. I'm a loving motherfucker. Anybody who I love is that one of the conditions. You got to love me too. That's the condition. Is that it? In order for this to be if I'm gonna love you, you gotta love me. You gotta love me too. You know what I'm saying? That's how that works. So I'm only in relationships with people who love me. What a radical idea. What a radical idea to only be in relationships with people who love you. Why does that have to feel so deep? Why does that have to feel so rare? Okay, that's me. Yep. Oh, man. Now, and again, I don't have hate for anybody. I don't even believe in hate. I believe hate is the superstition that fear wears. So I don't hate anybody. The most I could ever be to another human being is indifferent. And even then, it's just indifference in life. I don't think I could be indifferent to negative circumstances. I'm a water baby when it comes to stuff like that. So I can be indifferent to you and still feel a little bad when things happen to you. Like, damn, that sucks. You gonna go over there and talk to him? Oh, no. No, I empathize, but I'm not going over there. All right, so protect your peace, I love you, but I'm not okay with being spoken to that way, And if this continues, I'm going to step away for now. Now, see, that's not one for me. I put that one in there because that's a pet peeve for other people. I don't really care how you talk to me. Say it however you need to say it, Just know though, that if I give you that freedom, I am going to want the same freedom. I'm an artsy type of person, so I'm very communicative with my words. So I like high-heated exchanges and stuff like that. Let's go there, motherfucker. Let's go. But no, for some people, that's their thing. This is their boundary. Maybe, you have issues with an abusive parent, or maybe you've been in an abusive relationship before, and tone is really important. You have the right to communicate that, and you have the right to protect that, For me, it's not so much tone. It's really some of the other stuff. It's good faith for me. If I realize that you're not in this conversation in good faith, I'm going to depart from the conversation. And the biggest one, utility. I'll never forget when I was a youth minister and I was arguing with an older man, and honestly, he was just butthurt that I had got picked. I had been escalating in the church, and I had just got there like a few months before. And sure, they probably didn't do it the right way, but instead of him being an adult, he was taking it out on me, and I was a fucking teenager. And further proof is he's sitting here having this like bitch fit on me. No offense to women at all. I don't think of women when I think bitches, but I'll still correct that if that bothers people too much. But he was throwing this entire fit, this entire tantrum. And here I am, this 16-year-old, and I look at him and I say, hey, this is a fruitless conversation, and I'm not going to continue in it. And I just remember the person who was with me, which is a guy who was like my brother, his mind being blown because he had never heard a teenager talk to an adult like that before. And the guy, I'm sure his jaw is still sitting on the floor right now. because he damn sure hadn't. I didn't look back to check. I walked straight off on his ass because that's what's needed in the conversation for me. I'm not going to have a fruitless conversation. I'm not going to have a pointless conversation. You know, there has to be a goal. And if it's a conversation that's competitive, there has to be something I'm going to win. If it's a combating conversation, if you are becoming a combatant, the only way I'm staying in that conversation is if there's something I can actually win in that conversation. And in most cases, there isn't. And so utility is major for me. Tone, I don't care about. Word choice, I don't care about. I consider myself a humanist of humans, so I have no problem with any of that. It's utility that's going to be the thing for me. Utility is going to be the thing for me. You know, so it's fine to set those boundaries. Everybody's boundaries are going to be different, and this is again why I say we're not looking to give you 10 things you need to have successful conversations with people you love. We're trying to give you something that you can think about with to help further craft your conversations and how you respond to people, to learn how to honor both your dignity and their dignity. You know, it's okay to learn how to say what's off limits. It's okay how to identify what makes the conversations unsafe for you. And it's okay to acknowledge when you need space, you know, to say, hey, I actually care about this relationship way too much to talk about this while I'm upset. So let's go get some chicken and see if we both feel better after that, and then try again, you know? And then you make that the commitment that I am not going to have this conversation with you until I've separated myself from being upset. And if that means we got to go somewhere and just act like kids for a little bit just to get silly, whatever. Why not? Why not? You know? Remember, distance isn't always avoidance. Sometimes it's wisdom. You know, and sometimes space is the only way to keep a conversation from creating casualties. And that's what I don't, that's what I don't want people to do. Not unnecessarily. If there's a way to preserve the relationship in the conversation, and many times when it's a relationship with people that you care about and that care about you, there is almost always a way to preserve the relationship, even through some pretty heinous disagreements. Disagreements can get really, really bad, and you can still find ways to preserve the relationship. Disagreements can be incredibly value driven, and I've seen some really bad ones, and you can still find ways to preserve the relationship just by both of the people getting to a place of emotional maturity and having an understanding that this other person doesn't exist for me, and their experiences are not a reflection of me. They're theirs. And a lot of times what creates disagreements, especially value-based ones, is that I'm upset that you're not reflecting me. And it's like, well, no, duh, that's a whole nother different person. That's a whole nother different human being. Have you ever said to somebody, well, I don't look at it like that? Like anytime you ever say some shit like that, I always say, well, no, duh, I look at it like I look at it. I've never looked through their eyes before. I wouldn't even know how to do that bullshit. So why do I continue to treat myself like I have that superpower? You know what I'm saying? I love intelligence. I love thinking, man. It helps. For years, for years, intelligence was marketed to me as evil and uncaring. And I think I've become, and I please understand, I do have a cold side, or that some people would consider cold. I don't know. But I consider myself a lot more caring and considerate than I've ever been in my life. And then, of course, when you step away from these conversations, return with intent. I stepped away because I care. I want back because I want us to get this right. If you do walk away, come back with purpose. Let your loved one know you're not avoiding them. You're protecting the relationship. Okay? And I will tell you this. If the person you're in a relationship with is a person who dealt with abandonment issues, if you're going to walk away, communicate it. Don't just get up and walk away in the middle of a conversation without saying the words. That may be something emotionally that you can handle. For people who are still struggling with abandonment issues, oh man, To use a Christian reference, that's like crucifying Jesus all over again, you know? So just be mindful of that. Communicate it. It's okay to know when to exit the conversation. Disagreement isn't a weakness. Is knowing when to exit the conversation isn't a weakness. It's wisdom. You can say, I don't respect you, but I respect you, but I don't think this is moving forward. I don't feel heard, or a better way, watch this. I'm gonna do my best because we're about building bridges, right? A better way to say that is, even instead of saying, I don't feel like or I don't feel heard, say, flip it around. I don't feel like I'm really hearing you right now. Do you feel like you're still saying the same thing, in a way, but you're getting yourself out of the defense position and putting yourself back into that place of prioritizing them knowing that you care about them, and that's a way you can get the break from the conversation you need, while also letting them know that, I'm concerned about you. Thank you, Native Atheist, $5. Facts, 100. I appreciate y'all, man. This, like, y'all have to understand, I preached for 20 years, and this used to be a burden for me. Sunday sessions are a privilege for me, man. This is, like, I love coming here and sharing this time with y'all, and I cannot wait till we're building this out all across the globe. So instead of I don't feel heard, try I don't feel like I'm hearing you. So maybe we can pause right here a little bit, And then that gives them, like, imagine if they've never heard anybody say something like that before. You just gave them another option. You just gave them another tool for future conversations, Being humble enough to realize that not every conflict is your assignment. Not every soul is your victory. And you're not here to win people like trophies, That's one of the biggest, like, I don't have that anymore. Like, I'm not here to win people. I do want to reach people, but I'm not winning people. I'm not out here trying to win souls. I'm not doing that anymore. People got to win themselves, man. So you're here to walk with people when walking is possible. The goal is to build, not to win. And I want to say this with my chest because I've repeated it throughout this whole series. Stop treating people like conquests. Their life is their victory, not yours. So the question should always be, what can we build here? Am I fueling curiosity, or am I just flexing certainty? Am I helping, or am I just hoping to be right? Because disagreement can be beautiful. They can stretch us. Disagreements can challenge us. They can reshape us. But only if we stop reaching for domination and start reaching for understanding, So you've seen how this entire series connected. We started with good faith because the conversation can't begin unless we're both really here. Then we moved into keep rising because not every disagreement deserves your energy and not every perspective deserves your peace. And last week we dug into snowball evolution, where we had some snow time in the springtime, where the conflict that once looked like ammo can become a tool for building something stronger. And now we're here at Be Humble. Sit down. Had to do it. Where we realized the loudest voice isn't always the wisest. The strongest stance isn't always the most mature. And the most powerful person in the room is the one who can stay calm, stay curious, and walk away with clarity. And so here we are at the end of this series, but not at the end of the work. Because disagreement isn't something we fix once and for all. It's not really how that works. It's something we learn how to walk through better. And we've learned good faith means showing up with curiosity instead of combat. Snowball evolution taught us that we don't have to throw every emotion. We can roll it, grow it, and build from it. Sometimes I like to grow it and then roll it. You'll get it. But this is our way to keep rising, which has reminded us to ask whether the disagreement has mutual utility or if it's just a drain. And then Be Humble reminds us that we don't have to win every argument to win back our peace, because sometimes real strength isn't found in how loud you speak. It's in how clearly you listen. It's in the pause before the clapback. It's in the I don't know. It's in the let's talk later. It's in the I want to understand, not just respond. Humility isn't weakness. It's the wisdom to know what's worth your energy and what's just worth releasing. And if there's one thing I hope that you can carry from this series, it's this. Disagreements aren't roadblocks. They're building materials. But you've got to decide whether to throw it, drop it, or build something that lasts. So here's your call this week. Don't just avoid the argument. Don't just win the argument. Transform the argument. Because how we handle disagreements isn't just about what we believe. It's about who we're becoming. Let's not just keep arguing. Let's keep building. Let's keep rising. And above all else, let's stay human. And I got to thank Hard Determiners for that super chat, $10. Be true to yourself, no regrets, no giving in to manipulation, no being a chameleon, just be the best you. Absolutely. Well, I love y'all, and that's my time, but hang on tight because we got a little bit more for y'all.
A way to close out the Disagreement Therapy series. Listen, today we were reminded of a few things, and I'm going to point those out, okay? Because we got some nuggets, all right? And a few of those things is that emotional maturity and intellectual humility aren't just traits of good people. They are tools for building better conversations and stronger communities. We learn that being grounded doesn't mean being silent. It means being centered, okay? And that humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's being confident enough to keep learning. That's what I love to do. That's what I strive to do, is every day to continue to learn. And we also learn that disagreements don't have to divide us when we choose to lead with curiosity over control and connection over conquest. I'll be honest, this one has hit home because I thought about a moment this past year where I knew I was right, okay? I'm right. And maybe I was, but I kind of bulldozed my way through the conversation and walked away right, but not necessarily reconciled. So there was an opportunity missed there to build because I was too focused on winning, because I love to win, okay? I'm a competitive person, all right? But what I've learned since is that this whole series have kind of leaned on and reminded me that it's not that you can win the point and still lose the person while doing it. And so it's not about winning, it's about the person you're in conversation with or your relationship with. So now I'm learning to pause, to ask more than I answer, to lead with presence, not performance, because relationships aren't built in the heat of debate, they're built in the quiet of understanding, okay? So let's keep this going. Drop in the chat, in the comments, or over in Discord, okay? What's one way you've learned to practice emotional maturity or intellectual humility in tough conversations? Or what's one conversation you'd approach differently now after this series, okay? So let's learn from each other, because we rise better when we rise together. That is the whole point, okay? And if you're new here or you've been watching from a distance, this is your invitation to get connected. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our weekly updates, because we have them, okay? Check your emails. And join the Discord and introduce yourself. Be part of the growing community, grounded and global conscious community that we are trying to build here, okay? Until next time, always remember to keep rising and be the bridge.